गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. We are in Amrita Anubhav, chapter 4, the undifferentiated knowledge, Jnana Ajnana Bheda Kathana, OV number 6. And last time we saw, just as when camphor is lit, the fire expresses. And how long can the fire express? Fire be there as long as the camphor is. When the camphor is used completely, fire, and it's over, with that the fire also is over. Same way, in that manner, the Jnana Vritti, having destroyed the Ajnana Vritti, also disappears. So Jnana Vritti, what is burning the camphor? The fire itself is burning the camphor. So here, what is the fire? Fire is Jnana Vritti, the discrimination, what is real and what is unreal. And Ajnana Vritti is the total, because the Vritti itself is an expression of Ajnan. Whether it is Jnana Vritti or Ajnana Vritti, both are expressions of the ignorance only. But knowledge is the fire. And in that fire, fire needs a fuel. That fuel is the thought. And when the thought is of the knowledge of the self, of the infinite, slowly the entire Ajnana Vritti is destroyed. And when that is destroyed, the fire, just as camphor is destroyed, fire also goes away. Same way, the Jnana Vritti also dissolves, because there is no more fuel now. There is no more ignorance left to be removed. So therefore no more contemplation required. Therefore no more thinking required. Therefore no focused mind required. See how, when knowledge grows to its full extent, it destroys itself. So now we have become completely doubt free as to our nature. The poise is there, the contemplation is there. Jnaneshwar Maharaj says, Ajnanacha tenka nasahta hi jnanadhika faake zava upakha apula pade. With the destruction of ignorance, the knowledge increases to such an extent that this increase leads to its own destruction. Or, so long as ignorance prevails, the knowledge is glorified, and as the ignorance becomes stronger, the knowledge disappears. Two ways of looking at the same thing. The first one, with the destruction of ignorance, the knowledge increases to such an extent that this increase leads to its own destruction. Now you notice, if you do puja, if you do arti every day, light a camphor in the house in front of the Lord, if you do it, you will notice that when the camphor is about to finish, in other words, when the fire is about to extinguish, the last bit of camphor is there, suddenly the flame becomes bigger and then it extinguishes. This is exactly what is happening in our mind also. The knowledge increases to such an extent, meaning the last ignorance, the last doubt, the last objectivity is overcome by the knowledge, by the thought knowledge. That will be the last survival of the thought. It will try its best. And the second one, so long as ignorance prevails, the knowledge is glorified. Knowledge is called knowledge only with respect to ignorance. When there is no ignorance left, then what is the point of calling knowledge as knowledge? Knowledge has no existence. And as the ignorance becomes stronger, and as the ignorance becomes the knowledge, what is that? So long as ignorance prevails, the knowledge is glorified. And as the ignorance becomes stronger, the other way. If the ignorance becomes stronger, the knowledge disappears. The above what was told? Above was told that when the knowledge becomes great, then the ignorance disappears. If there is no support for or reference of ignorance, where is the question of knowledge? If there is no support or reference of ignorance, where is the question of knowledge? If ignorance were not, how can knowledge be? Now remember, this idea of knowledge, whatever we are calling as knowledge, the aham vritti or whatever, it is by way of thought, and it is under the purview of ignorance alone, isn't it? It is under the purview of ignorance alone. It is not existing independent of ignorance. What? Thought knowledge. We are not talking about the self as self. If the self is only a thought in the mind, then it is thought knowledge. If I is only a thought in the mind, then it is a thought knowledge. And if ignorance is completely destroyed, just like camphor is completely destroyed, then there is no need of fire also anymore. Similarly, when ignorance is completely destroyed, there is no need of knowledge also anymore. Then knowledge will not be called knowledge thereafter. If knowledge were not, how can ignorance be? So now take the flip side. If knowledge is not there, then how can the ignorance exist? Ignorance is called ignorance only because of knowledge. So both ways. Ignorance is called ignorance only with respect to knowledge. And therefore, here it says, Jnana vritti goes on consuming ignorance and keeps growing. So, the Jnana vritti, aham vritti keeps on consuming ignorance. That is its fuel. It keeps on consuming the objectivity. That is its fuel. The fire is consuming the camphor. That is its fuel. But as long as fire, with respect to camphor, the fire is not permanent, it is not eternal. So, to the jnana vritti, which is consuming the ajnana vritti, is not equal to knowledge, is not equal to wisdom. Wisdom is not having jnana vritti. Wisdom is to go beyond jnana vritti and ajnana vritti. That is wisdom. Wisdom is to be the one who is beyond waking and dream, jnana vritti, and beyond sleep, ajnana vritti. Take that position. This is only vritti jnanam. So, knowing yourself, having no doubt about your essential nature at thought level, is only vritti jnanam. Vritti meaning thought, jnanam meaning knowledge, thought knowledge, in which the individuality is still maintained. So, what is this? When vritti jnanam is there, you have got no doubt about your nature. This is nirvikalpa samadhi. With this jnanam, the maximum, with vritti jnanam, where can you reach maximum? Nirvikalpa samadhi. We become focused on the self, meditate on the self, contemplate on the self, dive into the self, and for some time we are in that state. But because the vritti jnanam, the thought knowledge has not been transcended, therefore you come back into the world again. Therefore you come back into the world again. So individuality is still maintained. Gradually, as the limitations are conquered one by one, the knowledge grows, as it were, until one is able to transcend the Jivatma Bhav. Jivatma Bhav will not. Now, I just gave the example of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, but Nirvikalpa Samadhi, to transcend the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you need this knowledge. Which knowledge? Vedantic knowledge. This is not other than Vedanta what we are studying here, even though it is the words of Jnaneshwar Maharaj's experience of realization. Without guidance from a Guru Maharaj like this, we cannot transcend Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Otherwise, Nirvikalpa Samadhi becomes an, it becomes an obsession. Empty mind becomes an obsession because you are free of all the worries. It becomes an addiction. We have to get out of that. And that, the only way we can transcend Nirvikalpa Samadhi is through Vedanta Adhyan, through study of Vedanta. Again and again, if we are behaving as an individual because we insist we are this body, why don't we insist that we are pure consciousness? Which will solve all the problems of life. If insistence is our habit, why not insist on that? So gradually, as the limitations are conquered one by one, what are the limitations? Desha Kala Vastu. With respect to Desha, Dharana. With respect to Kala, Dhyana. And with respect to Vastu, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. with respect to Vastu Samadhi. That means object, Vastu means objectivity, where objectivity goes away. And until unless, if you are addicted to this Nirvikalpa again and again, you will remain there. Until unless in our bosom this thought doesn't come that the bliss that I am experiencing, the oneness that I am in the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, how can I bring about a disposition wherein 24/7 I am in that unified state, in that transcendental state? Then automatically Vedanta will come into your lap, whether from outside or from inside, because you have done enough Shravanam now. See? So the knowledge grows, as it were, until one is able to transcend the Jivatma Bhav. With the Jivatma Bhav, what is the maximum you can go to? As the Jivatma Bhav, what is the maximum we can go to? Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That's all. Nirvikalpa Samadhi. But that Nirvikalpa Samadhi, again, when it's over, you are back in the world. The Jivatma Bhav is continuing now. We need to transcend this Jivatma Bhav. And for that, some other... yes, it is necessary that you experience that. You are purified, that's why you are getting there. But how do I make it into a Sahaja Bhav? Natural state. Where am I falling short? Where is my approach going wrong? This is the approach that is being explained now. That we need to transcend the Jivatma Bhav. Then one enters the Sarvatma Bhav. Now Sarvatma Bhav will not just come, it can come by grace of divine, but we become convinced, we become available to the Sarvatma Bhav because of Shravanam of the Shastras, because of the company of the masters. Then we become available to this Sarvatma Bhav. Because that is our true nature. This is the path where individuality has disappeared and one has reached the level of Sat Vidya. At this level, one is still below the level of at this level, one is still below the level of Kriya Shakti. This is transcended to reach the level of Ishvara. This is also at the Vritti level. Now Swamiji is really going deep into it. He's क्या बोलते हैं, a deeper dissection is being done. Because after Nirvikalpa what comes? Which we are not aware of, but for us, what is the Sarvatma Bhav? Whom do we know having Sarvatma Bhav? Either we know of Mahatmas, but we don't trust them because they look like us and they are living. We want someone who is in a stone and we have given him a form called Vishnu or Shiva or Narayana, and we say he is the Ishvara and he is pervading the whole, isn't it? So for us, Ishvara is the one with Sarvatma Bhav. And what is Sarvatma Bhav? Where everything is included, nothing is excluded, and nothing is retained. This is from relative understanding. Because from absolute point, nothing needs to be spoken. From absolute point, everything is silence. This drama of knowledge and ignorance, this doesn't happen from the absolute standpoint. From absolute standpoint, there is only absolute, and that also we are saying it. The absolute doesn't say that. But penultimate step before getting to the absolute is the Ishvara. He is the all pervading principle. He is the Nimitta Upadan. When we say Nimitta Upadan Karan, that is him. He is the creator and he is the maintainer and he is the destroyer and he is the material with which he creates. And then how come he creates himself and he destroys himself? That is the secret. So there are three Shaktis now. What are the three Shaktis? Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti and Kriya Shakti. With Kriya Shakti, what is the maximum you can go to? Om Sahasra Shersha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasrapad. Whether you know it or not, you do your Kundalini, you will reach that point. When Kundalini passes through the 7 chakras and reaches the ultimate Sahasrar, that is Sarvatmaya Bhav. It is not the tingling sensation that you are getting in your head. If that is coming, then go beyond it. Coming to Sahasrar means recognizing the consciousness that I am is the consciousness which is expressing behind all the heads, all the eyes, all the limbs of all beings. That is Sarvatmaya Bhav. But here, from a seeker's point of view, because he is only thinking about it, the duality is still there. That consciousness is pervading or expressing behind all heads, all limbs, all eyes. So still all is there. See? So this at this level, one is below the level of Kriya Shakti. This is transcended to reach the level of Ishvara. So we have to go beyond the Kriya Shakti. Kriya means activity. We have to go beyond activity to be one with the Ishvara principle. Ishvara is a principle. He is not a person. It's a principle. Gravity is not a person. It is a principle. This is also at the vritti level. So now, when we call ourselves individual, there has to be a total, no? And who is that total? That total is Ishvara. So where is Ishvara? So Ishvara is only at the thought level. Is only at the thought level. Paramatma is expressing as Aishwarya or Jnana Shakti. When this is transcended, one reaches the Sadashiva Tattva or Ichha Shakti. So first we transcend Kriya Shakti, then we transcend Jnana Shakti, and then we transcend what is the last one? Ichha Shakti. What will be Ichha Shakti? Ichha Shakti will be the Maya. And what is Jnana Shakti? Where all knowledge of what? Knowledge of the infinite as well as of the world is naturally available to you, to the seeker. until unless we don't go beyond Ichha Shakti, this is from the Shakta point of view, until unless we don't go beyond these three Shaktis, we cannot be the absolute. We have to, whose Ichha? Naturally the question will be, whose Ichha? Ishvara's Ichha. She is inseparable from him. Who? The Maya. She first expresses as Ichha Shakti, then she expresses as Jnana Shakti. Jnana Shakti is the consciousness. What we talk of as your consciousness, my consciousness, total consciousness, individual consciousness, this is only at the Prakriti level. This is not at the absolute level. What is this consciousness? Where knowledge and ignorance both are expressing. You understand? In pure consciousness, nothing like that is there because it's one. And that knowledge, that Jnana Shakti, then expresses as Kriya Shakti, brings about activity. And here, if you take it, from Ichha came Jnana, Jnana is the consciousness, and from consciousness came the Kriya. Kriya means activity. It's falling down from Sahasrara to Agya Chakra to Vishuddhi Chakra and so on. And eventually individuality is coming about. So, as Swamiji says here, the first step is to transcend the Kriya Shakti, and when we transcend the Kriya Shakti, then we recognize, we reach the level of Ishvara. This is transcendent to reach the level of Ishvara. This is also at the Vritti level. Paramatma, who is not other than Ishvara. Paramatma is expressing as Aishwarya or Jnana Shakti. Naturally, the knowledge is expressing. Naturally. There is no trial and error. Do I or do I not? This flux is not there. And Aishwarya means what? What does Aishwarya mean? The Vibhuti is his Aishwarya. Vibhuti, so here when he says Aishwarya is due to the, what it says? Paramatma is expressing as Aishwarya or Jnana Shakti. So because there is Jnana, therefore or in other words, because there is Aishwarya. What is the Aishwarya? Aishwarya is even though he is one but expressing as many. That is his Aishwarya. What is your Aishwarya? Body is one but limbs are many. What is your Aishwarya? Mind is one, thoughts are many. Eyes are one or two, but the apprehended objects, colors and forms are many. Ear is one, sounds are many. That's your Aishwarya, that you are able to connect, you are able to illuminate all this. But you are only illuminating. In case of Ishvara or Paramatma, same word. Yogis call it Paramatma, devotees call him Ishvara. He alone is expressing as all the forms. That will be his Aishwarya, no? He alone is space, air, fire, water, earth. He alone is the all forms. What is the Aishwarya of gold? All the ornaments are his Aishwarya. What is the Aishwarya of water or ocean? The Aishwarya of ocean is all the waves. But is the ocean a, 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 a summum bonum of all the waves put together? No, he's much more than that, isn't it? Same way, same way. What is that much more? What is that much more than total number of waves plus 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 plus? That will be water. So Aishwarya is still, when you say what is the Aishwarya, all the siddhi powers that he has, all the, as I said before, being one but manifesting as many without losing the oneness. Now this is also at vritti level only. Because we want to realize, we want to come to that absolute reality. These are the steps that we need to walk in order to get that. At this level only siddhas are there. Because they are naturally born with the Aishwarya of various siddhis, isn't it? And what siddhi we have? What siddhi do we have? Nothing. Our Aishwarya is one or two children, few properties, few house. Arey, expand. There are, not only at the physical level, there are other ways. If you want to expand and you have expanded, means your Aishwarya is quite pervasive in this physical world. Now go further. Our expansion is only at our stomach level. It's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. That is our Aishwarya. Paramatma is expressing as Aishwarya. So he alone is the Vibhuti. He alone is the powers. They are not coming from outside. And they come, and all these are because of the, when we are talking about Vibhuti, when we are talking about the manyness, manyness automatically brings the names of those many. Where is all this happening? It's happening in consciousness. That consciousness is nothing but the mind. When this is transcended, when Jnana Shakti is transcended, one reaches the Sadashiva Tattva or Ichha Shakti. So here, which is Ichha Shakti now? Ichha Shakti will be Parvati Amma. Shakti. Remember how we started the Amrit Anubhav? Parama Shiva expressing as Shiva and Shakti. So that is the ultimate Ichha Shakti. She alone is expressing as other Shaktis also. So Sadashiva Tattva, and with pure consciousness, that one reality with respect to Ichha Shakti is called Sadashiva. With respect to Jnana Shakti, he is called Vishnu, or with respect to Kriya Shakti, he is called Brahma. See? So, Brahma cannot create the manyness. Oh, sorry, Brahma cannot create the material. He uses the material to create the manyness. So when we say Sahasra Shirsha, that one person alone, one pure consciousness alone is expressing through all the heads, all the eyes, all the limbs. Who is that? That's Brahmaji. Now we have to move ahead. Who is Vishnu? He knows. What does he know? That he alone is expressing as all the forms. That is his vibhuti. Read 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And when we go beyond that, we go to silence. Then even vibhutis don't have any meaning, because vibhuti will have meaning only when our attention is outside. So if that attention, and why is the attention outside? Because we have ichcha. We have a desire to look outside. Don't look outside. You transcend that ichcha, that desire also. Then Sadashiva, who is he is ever content with himself. This is just one way of a prakriya. This is one way of putting it across. In this way, by conquering the limitations one by one, the Jnana Vritti grows steadily in strength. Jnana Vritti, who am I? We are asking. Or I am the pure consciousness. The Aham Brahmasmi Vritti, that is going strongly. So all the doubts with respect to all the activity is Kriya Shakti. Then all knowledge is Jnana Shakti. All desires, why are we getting involved doing activity and having the knowledge of the world? Because we keep creating, because these two are there. Because there is knowledge of the world, so we create the bucket list. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this, I have to do that. And then we become active. So don't desire. So even if the variety is available, don't desire all that variety. Only then we can transcend the Ichha Shakti. Otherwise, because there is options available, you choose the option that is desire, activity will ensue. So how do we stop this? How do we stop the Aham Vritti from giving value? We stop giving value to the objective Idam Vritti. See? And how long? As long as it requires. Stop giving value and attention to the idam. Stop. This is at individual level, as a seeker. One by one, the Jnana Vritti grows steadily in strength. This conviction that I am the infinite one, I am the independent one, I am the self-illumined one, I am the all-knowing one, I am the ever-existing one, I am all that there is, and yet I am transcendental to all that there is. That is where we want to be, no? This doesn't happen by fluke. It's a concerted approach, a integrated mind, a purified mind, the right thoughts to be entertained in the mind through Shravanam, and most importantly, a subjective approach is necessary. Yes, the most important of all this is the grace. But grace is always available. And if we do the previous steps, grace will automatically flow. When the knowledge becomes complete, when it has become a conflagration. What is a conflagration? Davanala. Huh? If you light, whenever a fire begins, it begins with a spark. It starts spreading. I'm not talking even in Victoria or New Zealand, near Queens, New South Wales also. And here in Victoria also 2 years ago, when we had those big fires, and what we saw on the TV was the fire is coming and the heat is so much that in one boom, sudden explosion, everything will catch fire. The house is not burning from one end to the other end slowly. The heat is so much, you can see the house standing. It is not on fire. Fire is all around it. But the heat is so much that there is a spontaneous combustion of the entire house, and it completely turns into ashes in one go. This is conflagration. This is Davanala. This type of destruction of all doubts, whatever doubts, desires, imaginations, confusions, objectivity comes about in the mind if we are thinking in the correct manner. It's exactly like when you are thinking about sleep, the entire destruction of what you know as real comes about, isn't it? Only then you can go to sleep. Otherwise, not possible. And not only the world that you know as real, but even your identity about yourself also is destroyed as the waker. Isn't it? That's the Davanala. You're so focused on sleep that in its wake, everything is destroyed. Everything is transcended. Everything is burnt away. Everything is as if it was never there. Because as long as the desire is there, then world will be there. If the world is there, activity will be there. You have to go beyond all. In deep sleep, there is no desire. There is no Ichha Shakti. There is no Jnana Shakti. There is no Kriya Shakti. You are one with Sadashiva in deep sleep. Only you don't know it. That's the only problem. See? So you are practicing this sequence which is being told here to some extent every night. We need to bring it about consciously. Find out where our approach is going wrong. Why is it not happening? If every night I can effortlessly go to sleep, then why it becomes such a big effort to make my mind empty when I come to seat of meditation? when the knowledge becomes complete, when it has become a conflagration, the individuality has totally disappeared. Hmm? Just like the waker completely disappears. Thinking about sleep, the waker completely disappears. And when the waker disappears, naturally the waking world also disappears. Because waker cannot exist without the waking world. So first the waking world was leaking away from the mind slow without your knowledge. You are only focused on the sleep. And then a point came where the waker had nothing to hold on to the world. But he was holding on to the thought of sleep. But sleep is nothing. Sleep is not an object. Sleep is not an object. He gets absorbed in that. He can't have an experience of sleep without becoming one with sleep. You cannot have experience of food without eating the food. Similarly, you cannot have experience of sleep. So the waker says, okay, now the whole world is gone. I got nothing to hold on to, only sleep. When the last thought goes away, even the thought of sleep goes away. And the waker also vanishes. Now you replace the sleep with the pure consciousness. But for that how much faith you have in the sleep, how much respect you give to sleep, that you approach it every night on a regular basis, sometimes 2 times a day, 3 times a day. We look forward to it. We don't allow any doubts and confusions and desires and objects of the world to disturb our union with the sleep. This is your attitude towards sleep. Why can't we recreate that with respect to the pure consciousness? Because we don't respect it, because we don't have the value giving to this pure consciousness that we are. That's why it is not happening. We are giving more value to the world than to the pure consciousness. We give more value to sleep than the pure consciousness. That's why on the seat of meditation, sleep comes rather than meditation. See? So in sleep, only the waker has gone away and the dreamer has gone away. But what we want to be in such a position, we want to be that wherein the waker, dreamer, sleeper, meditator, all the four have vanished. That they do not show their hood anymore. Only pure knowledge remains where there is no influence of jnana and ajnana. This is, our Swamiji says, eloquent silence. This is what Dakshinamurti, when we take Dakshinamurti Stotram, this is the point it will be talked about. Maunam Vyakhyat. Maunam, the expanse of silence. But it is not a inert silence, it is a conscious silence. That is our true nature. And in that, jnana, ajnana, vritti have no place. You cannot be that transcendental silence transcendental consciousness. As long as vritti jnanam is, the confusion, doubts, gyan game is going on, it becomes very difficult for us. So, we are not saying that jnana, ajnana vrittis will not continue afterwards. This is not said. Nature of the mind is to have vritti jnana and ajnana jnana, isn't it? Ajnana vritti and jnana vritti, that is the nature of the mind. We are not saying that we have to destroy the mind along with the thoughts. Because when when this type of knowledge is used, we think chitta vritti nirodha iti yoga. That is not what we are suggesting. Then what are we suggesting? Transcending. We are not against its destruction, nor we are for its maintenance. We are not for the vritti jnana and nor we are for the ajnana. But to get to this point where we are undisturbed by the vritti or the absence of vritti, ajnana vritti or jnana vritti, till then we must hold on to jnana vritti to come to this point. If you hold on to ajnana vritti, you will never be able to come to this point. Because ajnana vritti, name itself says ignorance, it cannot deliver you this. Knowledge, jnana vritti, it can take it, it will bring you to the sattvic mode and you will transcend. Just as a high jumper, he takes that pole, digs it into the ground, goes up, he keeps holding on to the pole till his entire body has crossed the bar. If he continues holding on to the pole, he will be disqualified. But at the right time, when the entire body, only one finger is holding on to that pole, and he sees his whole body is here, he lets go of that pole. Exactly the same way. We take the support of vritti jnanam to go beyond ajnana vritti. We take the support of jnana vritti. Then we keep holding on to it till we have transcended. What is transcended? Going beyond body identification, going beyond mind identification, till the last. What is the last? Aham Brahmasmi. How long do you keep thinking of the sleep? So that, suppose in that example of sleep, your thought of sleep is the jnana vritti and the thoughts of the waking world are ajnana vritti, which are impediment in you going to sleep. So you hold on to the thought of sleep, jnana vritti, and as long as you are holding on to it, slowly everything drops away. And eventually you drop the thought of sleep also and jump into sleep or get absorbed into the sleep. The pole vaulter raised himself high. He doesn't remain there. The gravity pulls him down. He doesn't have to come down. So same way, when with the vritti jnanam or jnana vritti, we raise ourselves, focus ourselves, make ourselves immune from the clutches of the ajnana vritti by holding on to the thought of sleep, then the sleep pulls us in. When the last thought is there, also goes away. Same way, Same way with this pure consciousness. When we come to this point, it will suck us in. It will not even suck us in. These are just words which we are utilizing for explanation purpose. Only pure knowledge remains where there is no influence of jnana and ajnana. Remember how jnana ajnana came about? That Paramashiva expressed as Shiva and Shakti. Then Shakti became three: Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. Isn't it? That is how the fall came. With respect that Paramashiva, that Sadashiva, with respect to Ichha Shakti, he is called Shiva. With respect to Jnana Shakti, he is called Vishnu. With respect to Kriya Shakti, he is called Brahma. But what is the point of having these three? There has to be a creation for these three to exist also, no? Then Brahmaji does the creation, Vishnu does the maintenance, and Shiva does the destruction. And the cycle goes on. You are also doing the same thing. The waking is created, the dream is created and destroyed, and the sleep also comes and goes. This is your creation. This waking, dream, deep sleep is not Ishvara's creation, it is your creation. With your obsession to this world and then becoming miserable. We have to get out of all this if we want to be happy. And getting out means not destroying the world. Getting out of this world means not giving value to this world and giving value to that one who's expressing in and through the world. A second meaning could be knowledge has meaning only vis-a-vis ignorance. As ignorance grows, it is as if knowledge is hidden. As ignorance grows, the knowledge gets hidden. As ignorance is reduced, knowledge grows until it leads to the annihilation of the individuality. So, in the childhood, when a child is born, there is no ego. Ego is covering the individuality as a principle. But as that child grows, he forgets that he is an individual. He starts gaining a personality. I am this, I am that, I was born, I have my birthday, why didn't you celebrate my birthday, blah, 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 blah. So as ignorance is increasing, what is your true nature? That is getting hidden. More the thoughts, further away are you from your true nature. It seems that way. Lesser the number of thoughts, closer you are to your true nature. In deep sleep, you are you are one with your nature. You just don't know it. That's all. That is why we enjoy the sleep so much. See? So also, as the knowledge grows, even if it is thought knowledge, to that extent the knowledge is reducing, and eventually this knowledge is also transcended. This growth and destruction of knowledge is illustrated by some examples. Now, again, examples are not uh, the final say, these are only indicative so that we get an idea. All these words are only indicating, giving us an idea of what that abidance is. What does it, what is it to be beyond the jnana vritti and ajnana vritti? दशा ही ते निमालिया येणे जे उवाया ते केवळ नाशावया दीपाचे परी. The increase in the knowledge before its destruction is similar to that of extra brightness of the flame just before its extinction. This is the example that came before, isn't it? In the 6th verse, the first. The phenomena of the increase in knowledge and its self obliteration after having consumed ignorance grows to such an extent that as it reaches its highest point, it is destroyed by itself. Same way, this increase in knowledge is also about sleep when you are sleeping. हाँ अभी कुछ डिस्टर्ब नहीं, आई एम जस्ट अबाउट टू स्लीप एंड सडनली यू आर गॉन. So that knowledge, thought of sleep self-destructs. Same way, the thought of knowledge also self-destructs. It is destroyed by itself, just as a flame becomes suddenly extra bright before it gets extinguished. So also the flame of jnana vritti, thought knowledge, grows by consuming the oil of ignorance, and as the last drop in the wick is consumed, the knowledge flame becomes suddenly brilliant before it dies away. That sudden brightness is like the eureka, the climax. It's like the ecstasy. You don't feel ecstasy straight away when you are in the bhajan, as it is going on and on and on, and as you are becoming one with the rhythm and one with the mantra or whatever is being chanted. Then the ecstasy comes. You have to loosen up. Your mind has to loosen up. And after that, what happens? Do you remain in ecstasy, or does the movement continue? Does the singing continue? Does the bhajan continue? Do your limbs keep moving? Once you reach the peak, then there is silence. Then there is silence. And what that divine experience, which is nothing but jnana vritti at the moment, this is only at the relative level. That climax, that ecstasy that you experienced, then after that, at a body level, it is exhaustion. But at the mind level, for no reason you are smiling. You don't even want to open your eyes. You want to be sitting still with yourself. See? So when Mahatmas in their meditation, suddenly they get out of meditation, you know, Alak Niranjan, or I am that. After that, what? That is like this, the final burst of color and of the flame before it self consumes. That climax is like that. You reach that ultimate, and then now there is no more efforts required after that. No more thinking required after that. No more contemplation required after that. Do you need to think of sleep after you have been absorbed in sleep? No. Then there is no body identification, then there is no world, there is nothing is there. In sleep there is nothing. In abundance, you are there. In spite of nothing and everything. Continuing the examples, उठणे की पडणे कुच भाराचे कोण जाणे फांकणे की सुकणे जाऊळाचे. The fullness of growth of the breasts of a woman itself leads to their drooping, or the full blooming of the flower is itself the start of its drying. These are two observations that young Jnaneshwar Maharaj, this is what he has observed. The breasts of a young woman grows until it reaches a point where the growth itself becomes the cause of its dropping because of the heaviness. Similarly, the knowledge also grows steadily to such an extent that it gets destroyed under its own weight, the impact of what it is suggesting. The flower starts as a bud. When the bud opens gradually and blooming is complete, it wilts away, it drops, it droops. Exactly like that, the budding will be the budding of knowledge, overcoming of the ignorance. When the flower is in full bloom, your knowledge is in full bloom. But the moment full bloom has happened, immediately the destruction of the flower has started. Exactly the same way. So the flower self-destructs. Exactly the same way. This jnana vritti also self-destructs once it has reached its peak. What will be its peak? Where there is no doubt, confusion and desire. That will be its peak. When there is no objectivity, that will be its peak of the jnana vritti. Continuing the example, तरंगाचे रूपा येणे तयाची नाव निमणे का विजूचे उदय जणे तोची असतू. The formation of the wave is the beginning of its submission in the ocean, or the appearance of the lightning is its disappearance. See this young boy of Jnaneshwar Maharaj, how many examples he gives. The appearance of the wave, the beginning of the wave is its submission to the ocean. The appearance of the lightning is its disappearance It's only a flash, isn't it? The wave is born on the ocean. The birth of the wave itself is its death. Now, don't only think of it as an example. This principle is about your body. This principle is about your breath. This principle is about your birth. This principle is about your thoughts. They appear only to disappear. You have convictions only to change them. The birth of the wave itself is its death. It grows not to maintain itself at that level, but only to die. To subside in the ocean. Or again, the appearance of the lightning in the cloud signals its own disappearance at that very moment. In the same way, jnanam dies after consuming ajnanam. So, what is the conclusion? Concluding these examples vis-a-vis the main thesis is being developed. तैसे पियूनि अज्ञान तम ववरी वाढ़े ज्ञान जव आपुले निधन निशेष साधे. In the same way, the knowledge grows on the diet of ignorance to such an extent that it leads to its own disappearance. So long as there is food of ajnana vritti and jnana vritti, so long as there is the food of ajnana vritti, the jnana vritti will go on eating it up. It doesn't eat up the ajnana vritti by giving it validity, by giving it value and importance. How does it eat? By being indifferent to it. So instead of thinking, giving value to all the thoughts, it is giving value to only one thought. Who am I? It is giving value to only one thought. Aham Brahmasmi. At night you give only value to one thought. I am sleepy. Or I want to sleep. You are not giving value to other thoughts, only to one. When there is no more ignorance to be eaten, knowledge has no purpose to exist. Thereafter, it does not have the diet of ignorance to thrive upon. Then knowledge also dies. So, how long we have to keep thinking of sleep? Till there is even one distraction for sleep available in the mind. When there is no distraction for sleep, then we don't need to think of sleep also. Same way. How long we need vritti jnanam? How long do we need to think aham brahmasmi or I am that, or as long as there is some doubt. When the last doubt from your mind goes away, then this holding on to aham brahmasmi, that also is not required. It will die of itself. Self-destruct. In this way, the strength of the world lies in our weakness. So, ajnan is the world. So, the strength of the ajnan lies in our weakness. We are not one with ourselves, therefore the world is strong. You have faith in yourself, you abide in the consciousness, the world will have no sway over us. In this way, the strength of the world lies in our weakness. So also it is the presence of ignorance that gives strength to the knowledge. that sustains vritti jnanam. Hmm? So vritti jnanam is also a part of ignorance alone, but it helped us to come out of ignorance. That's all. And that is what all the scriptures, they are a part of the ignorance, but they help us to come out of objectivity. More examples where are we? More examples follow. There is one thought thread that runs through them, that Atma Jnanam is not opposed to either Vritti Jnanam or Vritti Ajnanam. When knowledge and ignorance, which belong to the same degree of reality, are discarded, only pure existence, pure knowledge, where there is no knower known difference, shines forth. This I already mentioned this point, that abidance in the self, Atma Jnanam, is not opposed to Vritti Jnanam or Jnana Vritti or Ajnana Vritti. It is not a state. Sleep is a state which is different from waking and dream. Meditation is Nirvikalpa Samadhi is a state which is separate from waking, dream and deep sleep. Abidance in the self, Atma Jnan, is not a state. And that's why they call it natural state. Sahaja bhav. And it is not opposed. It is not opposed to waking, dream, deep sleep as well as samadhi. It is not opposed to any of these. Because these four states are only at the level of mind, are only at level of thought. Atma Jnan is not at the level of thought. When knowledge and ignorance, which belong to the same degree of reality, are discarded. Discarded means what? Be indifferent. Have udasin bhav towards knowledge and ignorance. So knowledge, when they say knowledge and ignorance which belong to the same degree of reality, what is the reality of what is the degree of reality of knowledge and ignorance? That they exist in their own absence. The vritti jnana and jnana vritti and ajnana vritti both appear but actually are not there. Sunrise appears but actually it is not there. Rainbow appears but actually it is not there. Blueness of the sky appears but actually it is not there. Similarly, this is called phenomena. Similarly, mind is a phenomena, and in it the jnana vritti and ajnana vritti are there. As long as we think of ourselves as the mind, then we will focus on the jnana vritti and try to go beyond the ajnana vritti, and one must do it also. But don't get lost in jnana vritti, because you are Atma essentially. And who is this Atma? What is the nature of this Atma? That it is not opposed to anything. It is not opposed by anything. Yesterday this thought came in Bhagavatam. Ishvara, he is the Nimitta Upadan Karan. He is the material that has gone into the creation. So, how can he oppose anything in creation? He alone is expressing there. And how can anything or anyone oppose him? Because they are opposing themselves. Because he is all powerful, because he is the all inclusive principle, there is no thought of opposition to anyone. And nobody has the power to oppose the Ishvara. Because anyone who thinks he is going to oppose the Ishvara, he has taken a lower position, and Ishvara is the all powerful. Same thing, same thought is presented here also. Where are we? When knowledge and ignorance, which belong to the same degree of reality, which is unreality, are discarded, only pure existence, pure knowledge, where there is no knower known difference, shines forth. From water's point of view, there is no ocean and waves. From gold's point of view, there are no different ornaments. From mud point of view, there are no pots. Similarly, from pure consciousness point of view, there are no knower known differences. There is no subject and object. Subject and object is only possible where there is individuality. Few more examples follow. जैसे कल्पांतीचे भरिते स्थळ जळा दोहिते बुडविल्या आरवते राहूची नेणे. The waters of the great deluge engulf both the oceanic waters and the land, so as not to allow any difference between water and land. When the pralaya comes, when the floods come, when the tsunami comes, what happens? It not only covers the wells, the ponds, the lakes, but it also covers all the land. So all individual expressions of water are also covered, and the jada, the earth, is also covered. Then wherever you see, what do you see? Only the water. All the differences of expressions of water vanish. At the time of the deluge, pralaya, the whole world is engulfed in the waters. The distinction that is now seen as land and water will no more be seen. As an individual, what is the distinction? Subject and object is the distinction. In and out is the distinction. Individual and total is the distinction. Divine and undivine is the distinction. That is what individuality is. Its basis is only on the distinctions. Both will be submerged. Land and water will not then exist separately anymore. When this deluge comes, when the jnana vritti dissolves, self-destructs, then what will happen? This is what will happen. That is not what is happening in the deep sleep. It is a pralaya of ignorance. That is what is taking place. In realization, pralaya of consciousness. So consciousness is pervading everything known and unknown. In deep sleep, Ignorance is pervading everything known and unknown. That's the only difference. That is the pralaya, no? They will cease to exist separately. So also the differentiation of knowledge, water, or ignorance, no water, that is land, is totally submerged in the total waters of pure knowledge, where knowledge and ignorance, water and land, have no more separate existence. Subject and object are dissolved into one. How many more ways Jnaneshwar Maharaj and our Swamiji Maharaj can expound this principle? How many more ways? And Jnaneshwar Maharaj, one after the other, so many examples is giving, just to impress on our mind who we really are. He is writing his experience of realization. And these are the cues that he has given us for our benefit. More examples are there. We'll look at those examples in our next class. Contemplate, revel in the true nature of yourself rather than in the acquired nature, rather than in the virtual one. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om. Hari Om.